Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump's former personal lawyer, was told by the Trump administration to avoid doing interviews, but he can't help himself, and he had a sit-down interview with The New Yorker. And during that interview, he actually confessed to working with corrupt prosecutors in Ukraine in an effort to oust Marie Yovanovitch, who was the US ambassador to Ukraine at the time. Now, Marie Yovanovitch is also one of the former ambassadors who has testified against Trump during the impeachment investigation. And here's what we know so far. Now, The New Yorker did an extensive profile on this prosecutor in Ukraine. His name is Yuriy Lutsenko. You've probably heard of him already. And he is referred to as a now disgraced prosecutor general of Ukraine, because apparently investigations found that he was corrupt himself, and as a result, he was ousted, and he was salty about that. Now, former Ukrainian prosecutor General Yuriy Lutsenko railed against American diplomats, including Yovanovitch, when he spoke to The New Yorker, and eventually described his partnership with Giuliani by saying both of them believe they offered each other a win-win situation for their political interests. When Lutsenko met with Giuliani at his office, the ex-prosecutor general provided financial documents he claimed was proof that Burisma hired Hunter Biden for the purpose of lobbying his father, the former vice president. So that's the reason why Lutsenko and Giuliani met in the first place, and they met with the help of Giuliani's business associates, Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman. Now, before I continue, you want to jump in, Jake?
Yeah, both sides are throwing around corruption, but there has been evidence on one side and not the other. So you see that in some of the internal proceedings that they recognize that Yovanovitch, our ambassador, is actually fighting against corruption. And so Lutsenko, who came in pretending to fight against corruption, kind of like Donald Trump, Lutsenko says to Giuliani, we have a win-win here. We're both pretending to fight against corruption while actually being in favor of corruption. Now, of course, he doesn't frame it that way. We read you the quote there, but that is what's happening. They're like, but we got to get rid of Yovanovitch, okay? Because she actually would expose us, and she doesn't want us to do nonsense investigations of the Bidens, because she knows factually, and this has been shown over and over and over again, that it's not true. So we got to get her out of the way so that we can play our political games here. And so that's why they have their so-called win-win. But yes, look, it's one thing for a corrupt guy in a different country to say, hey, America, can you get rid of your diplomat because she's getting in the way of my corruption? It's another thing for America to agree, but it's a third thing for American State Department not to agree, but the president's personal lawyer to go in there and go, well, I'm gonna fire a diplomat from the State Department, even though I'm not in the government. I'm gonna work with the president to fire this person because it helps this corrupt guy in Ukraine, and which now Giuliani and some of his associates, the government is looking into whether they got paid to do that, right? Plus, I'm gonna do it for the president's political ambitions. None of this is in any way legitimate.
So just to continue on, although I do want to go back to the accusations regarding Hunter Biden serving on that board. So Lutsenko wanted to meet with Attorney General Jeff Sessions to defend his reputation back in 2018, but he became irritated when he heard that Yovanovitch and others were trying to block that meeting. This eventually led to Lutsenko's first meeting with Giuliani after Parnas, that's Lev Parnas, offered to connect the two. Okay, so I'm setting the stage for what happened. This is the context. And then the reporter from The New Yorker hits up Giuliani, gets an interview with him, and during that interview, Giuliani just confirms everything. So let me give you his statements. Now, according to Mediaite, Giuliani largely confirmed Lutsenko's account of their relationship. He too saw Yovanovitch as an obstacle hindering his attempt to dig up dirt against his client's rival in advance of the 2020 election. Here are direct quotes from Giuliani himself. I believed that I needed Yovanovitch out of the way. She was going to make the investigations difficult for everybody. It's amazing.
Okay, why would you admit that? Why would you admit that? You're saying I'm a person not in the government. I'm the president's personal attorney / fixer. I'm trying to help him win the election, and I needed the American ambassador out of the way so that we could do a corrupt. He doesn't say the corrupt part, but we could do an investigation of the president's
son,
rival, right, and his son. Okay, look, even if that was your intent, why are you so stupid as to admit it to a reporter? They're unbelievable.
So, is he stupid? Or is there something that we don't know, right? Is there something that isn't being reported accurately in the mainstream media? And I say that because, I don't know, recent things that have transpired in my life have made me question everything. And so, look, I mean, it does make sense if Hunter Biden is serving on the board of a Ukrainian gas company, right? Wouldn't corrupt, actors have like a direct connection to Joe Biden, who then has a direct connection to Obama, the president of the United States at the time?
Yeah, I hear you, but look, so let me tell you my take on this based on what we know. Look, everybody on planet Earth knows that Hunter Biden was on the board of that Ukrainian gas company because his last name is Biden. And he's almost pretty much admitted that, okay? He had no knowledge of Ukrainian gas and of course would not be on the board of that company getting $50,000 a month otherwise. That's not the question. So, and if you're a conservative saying Hunter Biden was basically doing corruption to get on that board, yes, totally, okay? But the question is, was Joe Biden affecting American government policy to help his son get on the board? If there was evidence of that, I got no love for Joe Biden. I'd love to have evidence of that, and then I would use it and tell you guys about it, because then that would be corruption, and I would hate it. But there is no evidence of that. Or
if there's any evidence showing that Biden is pulling strings for people in Ukraine because his son is serving on that board, right?
Yes.
So if there's evidence of that, then it's a big problem.
Yeah, if there was evidence of Joe Biden in any way shaping American policy based on his son getting paid, we would be 1,000,000% against it. And look, I mean, I don't want him to be president. I want Bernie Sanders to be president. I don't want him to be a general election candidate because I think he might lose to Donald Trump. I think he's a really bad candidate. But there is no evidence of Joe Biden in any way affecting Ukrainian policy. In fact, it appears based on the evidence that we have, Joe Biden did the opposite. They were trying to fight corruption, and they wanted to get rid of prosecutors who would not fight corruption at places like Burisma. So Hunter Biden, guilty of using his father's name in a way that's odious, if you ask me, but I don't think Joe Biden's guilty. I'd love to tell you if he were, but I don't think he is.
And the final part of this is how Giuliani confessed to working with a conservative columnist at The Hill in order to push information about this investigation out there to the public. In fact, he reached out to John Solomon at The Hill and said, John, let's make this as prominent as possible. I'll go on TV, you go on TV, you do columns. Okay.
So look, the only reason why I think that's relevant is because if this was really in American foreign policy, you don't need to go on TV, and you don't need to get another conservative writer to try to influence policy in this direction. The only reason why they're going through these weird paths to get an American ambassador fired is because what they're doing is illegitimate. If they had any real information about an American ambassador doing anything inappropriate, they would just simply take it to the State Department. His client is the president of the United States. If you let the president know, hey, your ambassador is doing something wrong, he could then ask the Secretary of State, which is a lackey of Donald Trump, Mike Pompeo, and they'd be like, whoa, let's find out. The reason they're doing this whole effort is because Yovanovitch wasn't doing anything wrong. In fact, she was trying to fight corruption. That's why they had to do a workaround to try to get her fired, both for Ukrainian business interests and for Donald Trump, so that he can investigate his political rival.
They had to do a workaround.
That's what they had to do.
Workaround.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, it makes sense. It's just, you got to be skeptical of things you read these days, but that does make sense, and we haven't seen any evidence of Biden's wrongdoing.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.